When Steve Jobs invented the iPhone, of course, the source for all the innovations was maybe research and innovation, but sometimes user research does not give you all the ideas about everything you could do. People analyze landing pages and somewhere they see a high bounce rate. Everybody thinks they understood the problem, but they didn't. They just see the result of the behavior. They don't see the root cause of the behavior. The root cause of the behavior might actually not be on the landing page, but be on whatever campaign, Google AdWords campaign, affiliate campaign. Most companies in their organization, they know everything about the product. They know too much. They can't perceive their product as a customer would do that sees it for the very first time and compares it with competitors, right? And there is not an automatical buy-in for experimentation. There will be leaders and management people that doubt the power of data-driven decision making because it maybe compromises their own power. I think we started to work with VWO back in 2010. That was really, really early in the German market. That was like our big breakthrough because we basically were able to prove the success of what we're doing. And I remember before we created websites, so each time the marketing people, we needed their approval, like, oh wow, I like the design, I don't like design, and I hated it. You need to please the people. But when we started to increase the revenue of that online pharmacy, the CEO, he basically loved us. He said, well, you made us a couple of million euros. Whatever you do it. And
welcome to another episode of the CRO Hour series by VWO Podcast.
Get ready for some fun, insightful conversations about experimentation, user research, and the huge impact that CRO can have in your business. Before we speak to our guest, here's a very quick overview of who we are and what we do. VWO is a leading experience optimization platform that you can use to manage your experimentation program and deliver personalized experiences. One of our most popular offerings is VWO Insights, a platform to analyze user journeys and identify conversion roadblocks. Take a free trial with VWO today and optimize experiences across all your digital platforms. Now, let's jump right into this conversation.
Today, we have the privilege of speaking with André Morys, the CEO and founder of KonversionsKRAFT, a top business optimization consultancy in the DACH region. With over 26 years of experience, André has been at the forefront of digital growth, guiding a team of over 80 consultants, designers, and conversion experts. At KonversionsKRAFT, André and his team leverage qualitative research, consumer psychology, and behavioral economics, combined with data and experimentation to drive remarkable results for enterprise clients. In addition to his role at KonversionsKRAFT, Andre is a university lecturer, published author, and a public speaker. He's also a certified storyteller for influence. His personal mission is to impart his extensive knowledge on crafting effective optimization hypotheses and achieve significant uplifts in e-commerce. Get ready for an enlightening conversation with Andre as he shares his valuable insights and expertise in the world of conversion rate optimization. Hi, Andre. Welcome to the CRO Hour by VWO Podcast.
hello, happy to be there.
Great. How are you doing today?
I'm brilliant. I'm fine. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely fine. I'm very excited for this conversation on a personal level, honestly, because I know I'm going to learn a lot,
Oh,
and I hope that's also the case for our listeners.
good.
Great. Before I, dive into the questions, 26 years of experience, that's a huge number, right?
Yes.
One thing that I really am interested in understanding is growing up, did you know that this is something that you wanted to do? This is the field that you wanted to be in? Or was there something else that you dreamt of pursuing?
No, actually, I had no idea. I wanted to become a designer, so I applied to study visual design at a university. There was a waiting time, and I was good in computers. I was able to program websites. So basically, I started earning money by designing and programming websites, and that was back in 1996. So yeah, it automatically became a success. I did not need to know anything, and I think two years later, my company was already stock traded. I was head of the board, and we had a great amount of clients and so on. So yeah, I was overwhelmed by the success, and I never planned it, to be honest. No.
I think unplanned things just are just always seem to work out, right? 26 years again, a really long time. What is it that you've seen? Like how has the industry evolved? What are some of the key moments you remember apart from the recent emergence of AI?
Well, I mean, as you say, it's been a long story. So I think one of my very first epiphanies was back in like 2004 when we started to optimize an online shop for an online pharmacy. And I remember before we created websites, so each time the marketing people, we needed their approval. Like, oh wow, I like the design. I don't like design, and I hated it. You need to please the people. But when we started to increase the revenue of that online pharmacy, the CEO, he basically loved us. He said, "Well, you made us a couple of million euros. Whatever you do, do it." And so I realized there is a completely different level of appreciation and customer loyalty if you're working on the economic results of a company. I think that was one of the epiphanies I had, and it was already like 20 years ago. So when A/B testing was possible, like 2006, I think we started to work with VWO back in 2010. That was really, really early in the German market. That was like our big breakthrough, because we basically were able to prove the success of what we're doing, and since then it continued. So now we have AI facilitating things, accelerating things, but basically it's still about working on the economic success, not on does the design please somebody, does somebody like it, is it aesthetic. If it doesn't earn a buck, it's art, right?
Definitely, definitely. Completely agree. And I mean, I can't imagine what it was like before tools like VWO existed, right? How were things? I mean, just out of curiosity, how I believe there was no way to just measure specifically how something was performing. Of course, there was nothing like that earlier, right? So, how were you analyzing things back then, and how were you coming up with those ideas?
So I think before we had A/B testing, it was a massive effort in user research. So we were specialized in analyzing um, customer motivation, what triggers motivation. We called it Motivation Lab. We still do that kind of user research. It's a complex user research that reveals psychological triggers to increase motivation. And it also reveals what triggers decrease motivation and what do competitors do right. So basically, we invested a lot in qualitative research. So our concepts were really firm and we had a high validity these concepts work. The economical effect, as I said, this example for an online pharmacy, it was by comparing the results during time, right? So we saw the progress over a 2-year period. We saw the conversion rate increase. We saw the revenue increase, but we had no possibility to really test things in an agile way as we would do it today. So we needed to be sure that our concept is firm and valid, and that's why we invested much more effort and research back then.
Got it. Makes sense. Makes sense. And you deal with a lot of enterprise clients at ConversionsKRAFT, right?
Mhm.
Do you find that all of them have a mature understanding of CRO? Are they open to experimenting since they have the resources for it?
No, no, not at all. I think we are in the middle of what I call the digital revolution, right? Everybody knows the industrial revolution, like from 100 years ago, and how it changed how people work. But we are still in the middle of this kind of hierarchical organizations where bosses tell people what to do, which is not working anymore properly. So big enterprises are mainly trapped somewhere in between the worlds. Like they started to agilize. Can you say that? I don't know. So now they started to have agile teams, which work in a completely different way, but still everything around that is hierarchical and based on ideas from the Industrial Revolution 100 years ago. And so that makes it tough sometimes, right? So in a hierarchical organization, power comes from decision making, and how you influence people. So of course you can try to be a great leader because you know everything, right? That's how it works in a classical hierarchical organization. It does not work the same way in a digitally successful organization. So this is why I think many enterprises are trapped in between, and they feel the tension between these worlds. And there is not an automatical buy-in for experimentation. There will be leaders and management people that doubt the power of data-driven decision making, right? Because it maybe compromises their own power.
Yep, definitely. And how do you tackle those challenges that come your way?
That's a good thing. We have data, we have methods, we have ways to prove it. We know who are the stakeholders that are open to our message, right? The messaging, how to get buy-in for experimentation is not about, well, we deliver great marketing ideas. The approach must be that data-driven decision making saves millions of euros, right? Companies need to feel the pain of classical decision-making processes that have a low amount of validity, that are slow, that need a lot of discussion. So it's slowing them down and delivering bad quality. So maybe better talk to the CFO or CEO and present the case.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And when we talk about making these significant changes to a website, right? Businesses, they often wonder whether to use experiments or feature flags. When should each approach be used, or is it effective to combine both? Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I think it is effective. So first of all, for many experiments, if you do them like front end based, and if it wins, some developers have to do the coding again, right? You waste a lot of work. So of course, working with feature flags and integrating things from the backend and server side reduces the amount to implement your winners a lot. So I would say in a product operating model, this should be the standard. But there are some things that might be complex to build. So you might go even one step earlier and simulate something before you build it, right? Do a smoke test, whatever. If this has a high risk and a low effort, I would always go for the front end based experiment and simulate it before I build it. So then I would not use feature flagging and increase my velocity by kind of simulating it, smoke tests, fake door tests, whatever.
And let's also talk a bit about your book, right? You've developed a conversion framework, and you've also published it in your book, Conversion Optimierung.
Mhm.
Could you give our audience an overview of what the book is all about?
Yes, it's interesting because this framework basically started years before we did A/B testing. The root of the framework comes from our qualitative research. So we had hundreds, maybe thousands of people in our research, in classical, what we call motivational labs. And we wanted to simplify the process, and we started to search for the major root causes of all the findings we had. So we dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and basically what today is known as the 7 levels of conversion. That's the name of the framework. And you can learn it at CXL, by the way. There's a course about this heuristic evaluation method. Um, it is the root cause of every single motivational trigger we found. And it's basically 7 different triggers. And it makes sense that they have a certain order, because before people buy something, they will ask themselves, can I trust it? And after that, they will ask themselves, where should I click and what's the consequence of the click, and so on and so on. So this framework basically was found or discovered as a result of a lot of user research and trying to find the root causes. Today, we call it first principles thinking. And this framework combines all these root causes, because we understood it's not always usability. You have to understand, 20 years ago, usability was the number one thing, and everybody was doing usability labs. And we've been like the first people that understood a lack of usability might be a problem, but it's not everything you can do to raise the motivation of people. A lack of usability is destroying motivation, but there are certain other elements that increase motivation. And this is covered in the 7 levels of conversion framework.
Got it. Got it. And taking this framework further, or you also mentioned how research has been a key element to everything, right? And in general, I think when we talk about CRO processes, research has to be the first step, because you wouldn't really figure out what to fix until and unless you do your research, right? Do you think a user focused approach in research and testing is directly influenced by how senior leadership incorporates it into the organization's culture?
I mean, first of all, I would not agree that every great idea needs to come from user research. Basically, you could be completely agnostic about the source of an idea, right? Of course, with a great understanding of your customers and their pains, you increase the probability to make a win, because every time you create an uplift or you create a winning variation, it is because you're solving a problem of your customer better than before. You changed behavior. So, of course, understanding customers, their behavior, what triggers them, is in general a huge factor. And I think there's a saying, and it goes, you can't read the label from inside the bottle. And I think that's where most companies struggle, because in their organization, they know everything about the product. They know too much. They can't perceive their product as a customer would do, that sees it for the very first time and compares it with competitors, right? So, yes, uh, my answer is yes. If an organization is customer focused, or as Jeff Bezos, Amazon, is called customer obsessed, there's a much higher probability to turn the right findings into a competitive advantage.
Got it. And can you elaborate a little more on the point that you mentioned, the fact that you don't agree with the fact that user research has to be the first point of everything that you test out? Can you help with some examples? I think that's a very interesting point, and a lot of listeners might be interested in this.
Sometimes you can combine, like, let's call it creative methods, right? When Apple or Steve Jobs invented the iPhone, of course, the source for all the innovations was maybe research and innovation, but the genius idea of combining a touch screen with a keyless device and Wi-Fi and whatever. Sometimes user research does not give you all the ideas about everything you could do. So innovation's foundation is research understanding about customers, but sometimes it's also about creativity, genius, and combining ideas, looking out of your echo chamber, your own market bubble, and understanding ideas that work in different industries, bringing them into your industry whatsoever. So user research, from my point of view, or market research, basically creates a very great understanding about customers and their motivations and their pain points. But still, you need to do something better. You need to combine ideas, and it's not only user research. It might sometimes takes more than that.
Okay, makes sense. Moving on, my next question for you is the fact that CRO has flourished in Europe, right, with companies embracing it and experts like you raising awareness about it. From your perspective, what is the one aspect of CRO that is not receiving enough attention, and how could Europe improve in this area?
So when I'm giving talks and speeches at conferences, I most of the time explain that CRO is often perceived as a tactical method you could do, mostly driven out of marketing teams. But the way it is done, the way of working, um, basically is an operating model for companies, which is much, much bigger. So, what I try to make the people understand, and where I want to create awareness, is the fact that the term CRO sounds too small for what it could achieve. If you unleash the power of this method, you could apply it everywhere. So, of course, it is applied in product organizations that experiment. It is applied in product development. You could apply it in brand and redesign. You could do that data driven and research driven. And one company that did a very well research in it is Forrester, the experience consultancy, and they call it insights driven business. So they're much more agnostic about what is the metric. They don't care if it's conversion rate or whatever. They display the effect of an insights driven approach by overall market share and revenue and growth. And they claim that companies that implement this method, they grow 10 times faster. And as I said, it's an operating model or a way of working. You could call it scientific working in digital businesses, or call it whatever you like. But that's my main message. CRO is a great term and it works well, but it limits the capabilities of what we could do to one team or one metric, and there's so much more.
Yep, yep. I think I read this or heard this somewhere that those growth summit that you have, right? Earlier, it was renamed basically because CRO is a term that is limited as per your
Yeah,
opinion, right?
yeah,
And we want to talk about experimentation. We want to talk about growth in general.
exactly. The thing is,
So
I think it comes from the how the industry evolved, right? So one of the first things that were optimized were landing pages. So we started with landing page optimization, and further on we realized, well, we could apply it throughout the whole website. And most of the times, the best metric to measure is conversion rate. So let's call it conversion rate optimization. It's easy, it's understandable. But then we realized maybe revenue or customer lifetime value are better metrics, or profitability, whatever. So why limit it to conversion rate optimization? And then everybody realized, well, what all this has in common is that the way we do it is experimentation. So now much more people are talking about experimentation as a way how we're doing it, as a scientific approach. But of course, experimentation is only one step in the process, right? We also need research and analysis and prioritization. Experimentation maybe is a little bit too narrow again. So I think there is still an identity crisis about how is it called that we are actually doing.
yeah, makes sense. Let's talk a bit about the buzzword AI, right? Given the impact of AI on CRO, how do you see it changing research and testing? And are there any other changes, either in strategy or technology, that you expect sometime soon?
So first of all, it's AI is of course a buzzword for everyone that does not understand the true potential of it and how to apply it. So I think AI is very real. It is here to stay, and today you can already accelerate many of your research tasks, understanding the market, your audience, your customers, their motivation. It accelerates this part of the job already a lot. Um, when it comes to creating hypotheses and how to operationalize hypotheses, how to implement them, it helps a lot. And there's one first limitation of LLMs. They're not able to create like visual output. So today it is limited that you say, well, that's the screen, that's my hypothesis, please create variations. How could it look like? But it will come. And again, when it's about the statistics and the data science and how to aggregate all the results, again, uh, AI tools help a lot, help a lot. So basically, I think the biggest advantage is that now, as experts, we need to simplify the reality to create ideas, right? So we are thinking about the overall customer journey and we simplify it. Basically, it's millions of customer journeys and they all look different. And as human beings, we cannot understand it. AI is able to understand it. Same with user behavior, interactions, and data. Each user leaves thousands of data points to understand their behavior, but as human beings, it's impossible to understand that. And then you have thousands of users at the same time. How could you process that? AI will be able to deliver us much faster ideas for optimization, much sharper hypotheses. It will be able to be connected to existing results, do meta analysis, whatever. So, yes, I'm a strong believer that this will accelerate everything a lot and it will also democratize everything a lot.
Okay, that's a very interesting intake. Firstly, do you think that this is going to also remove the human touch from the process to a great extent?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think, first of all, it will be able to reduce a lot of the human effort that is now needed. Still, today, as I said, as when inventing the iPhone, you need sometimes some engineering genius, whatever, to create great ideas and optimization. And I see limitations of AI right now, but I'm not able to predict when this will be solved. So the development of AI is so fast. I think nobody is able to predict what will be possible in 1 year or 2 years. It might look completely different.
Got it. And while you were talking about AI, right, you also mentioned that there are so many touch points that visitors leave during this entire customer journey, right?
Mhm.
And AI is able to figure that bit out. My take here is also that as humans, we're also able to understand the human psychology a little more because those are real people, those are people just like us,
Mhm.
right? So what I am able to relate to
Mhm.
as a customer, AI might take a little more time to go ahead and do that, right? So don't you think it's still a little human touch in general would
Yeah.
bring a lot more subjectivity as opposed to the objectivity with AI?
I would turn it around. I think I
Okay.
see so many times that data is biased by the opinion of experts. So, of course, you're right. That's also kind of intuition, and it makes us see things, but it also makes us see things that are not there. And I think one great strength of AI is its objectivity. So, one example, if people analyze landing pages and somewhere they see a high bounce rate, everybody thinks they understood the problem, but they didn't. They just see the result of the behavior. They don't see the root cause of the behavior. The root cause of the behavior might actually not be on the landing page, but be on whatever campaign, Google AdWords campaign, affiliate campaign, because it uses the wrong keywords or the wrong content. I don't know. I'm just making things up. And there's so much interpretation there. So most people suffer from confirmation bias. So they are searching for data that yeah, strengthens their existing beliefs. And this and you don't even know it. So there's even a cognitive bias. I forgot the name that makes us think we are not suffering from any biases, but we are. And in optimization, that's a big problem, a big hurdle to overcome. And there I see a strength of AI to not have the human touch, which is biased a lot.
Okay, makes sense. At that same point, you mentioned earlier, you had also mentioned about the creativity being in the entire process,
Mhm.
right? Um, right now, or maybe in the future, again, not something that we can predict, but given your experience, right? Do you think that creativity factor would also be incorporated into AI, and again, that would also help us in any manner?
So already today, you could use AI to facilitate any creative process because, as I said, there's one a creativity technique where you combine ideas from other fields of expertise with your field. So you could ask yourself, uh, what are innovation principles of the automotive industry that retailers could apply? So combine all these with all my industry factors, and an AI will be able to combine those factors much faster than a human being might be able to. So then to understand which of these combinations might be interesting and you should have a further look, that's still today something where a human being is needed. But I think AI can also accelerate creative processes a lot because it's a much faster thinker and can also create combinations that are on the first in the first view or the first moment are not easy to understand to human beings.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Could you also share a recent test that you worked on that offered significant insights and you will remember for a long time?
Oh wow, that's a good question, and it's a great question. That's by the way my pitch when I'm asked why should you come to our conference at GMS. I tell, well, there are 700 people, and all of them have made great experiments, and it's like a great walking asset database of test results. So ask everyone what's the most surprising test you ever did. So I appreciate that you're doing it here. Um, I would say yes. One surprising test result was about value propositions of an online retailer. And it sounds like a no-brainer because we tested these value propositions like 2 years ago on the desktop viewport. And it's like about quality, delivery time, selection, so things like that. And I can't tell any details because of NDAs, but that was one of the most successful experiments we did because we used the space that is around the average fold of the website. So if people scroll down here, maybe they don't have an intention to buy immediately. So we need to convince them. So we added this value proposition and it worked a lot. It worked brilliantly, nearly a two digit uplift, which is rare in e-commerce. Millions of euros. We were happy. But I don't know, somehow placed the same value proposition not in the same way on the mobile experience. So we did some follow-up tests, and that was one of the recent tests where we tried again. We kind of retested this value proposition mobile, and it did not work at all. The same thing led to a significant downcast. And why is it that important? It might sound as a no-brainer. First of all, retest your ideas because what works on desktop might not work on mobile. What works in the German market might not work in the UK or France. And that was the second learning. Mobile users don't need this reaffirmation of value propositions to buy. Actually, it kind of prolonged the page when they were swiping down, and that led to this significant downcast. So that was surprising. Still, how different the different viewports behave, and you need to see it as an maybe entirely different device or business with different people and different things work. And it's a challenge.
Definitely. Great. I think before we delve into the next part of the conversation, just one quick question that I have, I think more of a personal question for me. What's the best piece of advice that you have ever received that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, you're asking really great questions, but difficult to answer. So, I think one of the best advices I ever got is for me on an entrepreneurial level. So, And this is all about focus. So I've read the book Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. That was an advice from someone. And I really enjoyed it because it says solve one constraint after each other. Don't get yourself kind of diluted by trying to solve everything at once. And that was advice that I am able now to apply on so many levels for my own company, also for our clients or testing strategy. Yeah, always find the biggest constraint and solve that first. That's why I started to become a big fan of first principles thinking. So at konversionsKRAFT, we do root cause analysis many times because we want to avoid to fight the symptoms. We want to work on the root cause of things. So yeah, that was an advice like from 10 years ago that today helps me on so many levels. Yeah.
Great. I'm still reading that book. It's in my, just alongside the bedside. So great. I've had a fantastic conversation so far. We have a quick little surprise round which we call as the rapid fire section.
Okay,
Would love it if you are all geared up for the spontaneous responses there.
sure.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Shoot.
Perfect. If you were starting a career in CRO today, what is the one thing that you would do differently?
Wow. That is not an easy question for a rapid fire section. I think I would try to understand the principles of agility much earlier. When we started, agile product development was just in the beginning, and to test and also to fail earlier. In the beginning, there was such a focus on winning and win rate and create uplift. And it took a time until we realized there's also a value in losing, and there are insights out of losing experiments. And be fast. Velocity today, I would say, is underestimated a lot. I would start to accelerate earlier. Today we are very fast, but like 10 years ago, we were happy if we did like 12, 15, 20 experiments per year for a client. Today we are around 200 experiments.
That's a great number, and definitely something that all of us need to learn. A newsletter that every CRO professional must follow.
The one from Kevin Anderson, experimentation. How's it called? I don't know. Experimentation. Something with experimentation. If it comes each Monday morning, and it's such a brilliant start into the week, so I can recommend it. Maybe you put the link in the show notes. I don't remember the name. That's a
Yeah,
brilliantly researched newsletter that gives great insights every time.
God. Three books that you would recommend to our listeners.
First of all, I do like 5 books at once. I would read everything from Clayton Christensen, from The Innovator's Dilemma to Disruptive Strategy, whatever, because it's such a great view on how innovation works and why this is important. Because I think actually what we're doing in CRO is innovation. It's on a micro level, but you can use the same principle on every level. That's one book. Second book, I already mentioned Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, because experimentation is part of a strategy, and you should understand why it's also a strategy that could set you, your company, your employer, your client apart from others. Because being able to learn faster than your competition is a differentiating strategic advantage. So read Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. A third one, I mean, there are so many. A third one, essentialism. Again, it's about focus, how to focus on the things that are really important. Yeah, these are 3 books.
Perfect. What's your go-to travel destination in Europe?
Southern France. Southern France,
Nice.
because I like the way how relaxed people are there. And great food, great wine, always sunny. Definitely Southern France.
Great. One thing that AI will replace in the next 3 years.
Um, I would say user research will be under pressure, under threat. Coding is maybe a next thing, and data science.
Interesting. Okay. If not a CRO specialist, what other profession would you have chosen?
Actually, I started to be an audio engineer. I wanted to be the guy in the middle of a concert, sitting in the front of house with all the knobs and making the whole concert experience work. I quickly ended up with my agency and konversionsKRAFT. So, but I think for a second try, I would go for that.
Interesting. One CRO metric that you wish people would stop obsessing over.
Oh, that's a good question. I could tell you what are like analytics measures that are quite overrated, like time per visit, whatever. I think we have an understanding since years that this is a wrong metric, and still I see it in so many reports. But for experiments, I mean, that's hard. I think I don't have one because many times clicks are critiqued, like micro conversions are in critique, like by button testing, whatever. No, you could see directly what happens at the place where you are testing things if you measure the click rate. You could use that.
Definitely. A dream or goal you want to achieve in the next 3 years.
To be honest, I mean, I'm a father of two kids, so every parent wants to, and they are now 15 and 17. So of course, you want to see your kids be happy, have a happy life, find a job, and yeah, I think my biggest dreams are around my family and them to be happy.
Great, great, great. That is it as far as the rapid fire questions go. Thank you so much, Andre, for joining us on this podcast.
You're
It was
welcome.
lovely talking to you. I had a lot of learnings, and I'm sure that would be the case for our listeners too. Before we conclude, any parting thoughts?
Thanks for having me. It was a great pleasure for me too. Great questions. You really made me think. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Thank you.